Hi, we're at the Driskill Hotel, and right now I'm going to be taking a tour of the Driskill Hotel, and I'm here with my guide, Tyler.
Yes. Hi, I'm
Here he
Tyler.
is. Here he is.
Excited to be here.
Yes. So let's start our tour now.
Yes, let's do it. So the Driscoll is the oldest hotel in Austin. It was completed in 1886 by Colonel Jesse Driscoll. So Colonel Jesse Driscoll, he made his wealth selling cattle to the Confederacy, and he earned the honorary title of Colonel by the Confederacy. And the hotel was completed for about $400,000, which was quite a bit for 1886. At that time, Austin was really starting to change from a Wild West town into an actual, well-established city. You had the Capitol was under construction at that time as well, which was a big event because the Capitol at the time of its completion was seventh or eighth largest government building in the whole world. So Austin was really starting to be put on the map. So therefore, Colonel Jesse Driscoll wanted to build a hotel that would be able to rival the likes of those in San Francisco or New York or Chicago or what have you. So when the hotel was initially designed, there were two entrances into it. So the entrance that we're standing at right now is off of 6th Street. So 6th Street is a very important street to the history of Austin. 6th and Congress are going to be the two main streets that the city grew up around. So at that time, 6th was actually more important than Congress Avenue. This is where a lot of the primary business in town would have been located. So at the time, this particular entrance off of 6th Street was meant for the men of the hotel. So the reason why is because when they would walk in, what is now the 1886 Cafe and Bakery was formerly the saloon. So there's a saloon, there's a barber shop in there, billiards room. So it's very smoky, very rowdy on this side of the hotel. Whereas if you went around the corner down the lobby to the right, there's another entrance there off of Brazos Street, and that's where the women would enter. And so the women would be able to enter the lobby and have direct access to their hotel rooms without having to hear the rude talk and I guess smells of the men's entrance over here. So we can start walking down the lobby here. Get some of the architecture. Talk about the man in that portrait if you're ready. So if we can actually walk a little bit closer to him. So the man in the portrait here at the top of the stairs this is a life-size portrait of Colonel Jesse Driscoll.
Wow, he's tall.
He was.
Whoa, how tall is he? Do you know?
It looks to me like he's probably maybe just under 6 feet.
Wow.
So
he looks tall from down here.
Yeah,
He's
right.
taller
Yeah.
from down here.
I'm sure that's probably part of the appeal of having the portrait there.
Yeah.
He does seem larger than life.
He's really tall.
Well, he actually had a pretty tragic life after the hotel was completed in 1886. So just a year after the hotel's completion in 1887, he lost about half of his employees to a rival hotel down in Galveston.
Wow.
They snatched up all his employees, and he actually had to temporarily close. So he opened the following year in 1888. He reopened the hotel. But unfortunately for him, that year was particularly harsh. There was a really bad drought, and there was a really harsh winter that followed afterwards. And he still relied very heavily on his cattle as a means of profit. And he ended up losing 3,000 head of cattle that year.
Yeah.
And so because of that, he was forced to sell the hotel only about 2 years after it opened. And he died in 1890 from a stroke. So that's just 4 years after the hotel opened.
Wow.
And after he died, that's when he was commemorated with this portrait, this life-size portrait of him at the top of the stairs. And so they say that he still haunts the hotel. He's one of the ghosts that haunts the hotel.
Yeah.
Supposedly you can
Even
smell.
though he didn't die here.
He didn't die here, but because he's the one who built it, he
Yeah.
likes to check up on it from time to time. So you're supposed to be able to smell the smoke of his cigar as he wanders the halls.
Well, when you come walking into the hotel, it smells musty, like old and musty. Like you can tell it's an old hotel.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And most of the furniture that's still out here in the lobby is antique. So they've picked certain pieces from the era. These aren't necessarily the original pieces, but from the era to show off its former glory.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we'll start making our way upstairs. We'll check out the bar, what's now the bar. It used to be the dining room next. It's really beautiful up there.
Okay.
All right, so we are heading into the Driscoll bar, which was formerly the dining room. And this is really important spot for a former president of ours, President LBJ. So back in the 30s, he actually went on his first date with Lady Bird here in the dining room. And he actually attempted to propose marriage on that first date.
Wow.
She ended up holding off for about 10 weeks before
Smart
she accepted.
lady,
I know,
smart lady.
Gotta give it some time.
Yes, yes.
And the hotel's played an important part of his life ever since. He actually used it as a campaign headquarters when he was running for the U.S. Senate.
Mm-hmm.
And then he also watched the results of the 1964 presidential election here. And so they have a suite, the LBJ suite, that was permanently reserved for him anytime he dropped by.
Wow.
And it's too bad they're all closed up, because this is, if you guys get a chance to come here at some point in the evening, this is a
Yeah,
great
we were
spot to
actually
go.
here last night. It was really nice.
Yeah. Every October, of course it's not going to happen this year, they have the Austin Film Festival, and this is the headquarters for the festival. So this is like a really cool mingling spot to meet other filmmakers and directors and stuff that come in through the city.
Okay, we were just down there. Now we've come up over here into the mezzanine.
Mezzanine. Looking for the Maximilian Room. I think it's around here.
So this is mostly conventions and weddings and things like that on this floor.
Exactly, yeah. When we had the film festival, okay, looks like we're locked out. Let me see if I can do something about that.
So in the mezzanine that we're in right now is the LBJ suite. It's located right here. And right now we're trying to get into the Maximilian Room. Our guide went down to go get the key. He'll be right back.
Would have been designed in the 40s.
In the 40s?
1930s.
1930s,
Mhm.
okay.
So this is the Maximilian Room, which we're about to get to see inside. And it gets its name, Maximilian, from the former emperor and only emperor in post-Columbian times of Mexico, Emperor Maximilian. He would have been emperor for only 3 years, from 1864 to 1867. And so at the time, Mexico owed a lot of debts to various European powers, including Britain, Spain, and France. And so they basically strong-armed Mexico into paying back their debts. However, what Britain and Spain didn't know is that France intended to take it one step further and actually rule over Mexico. So under the direction of Napoleon III, he installed Emperor Maximilian, who's actually Austrian, had nothing to do with Mexican culture, as its emperor. And he was very shortly overthrown by the Mexican people. And only a couple years later, Napoleon withdrew his forces, so Maximilian really had nobody left to defend him. And his wife, Carlotta, Empress of Mexico, went to Europe to plead support her husband's rule. But while she was gone, Maximilian was actually executed by the Mexican people. And what brings us here to this particular room is there is a gift for Carlotta by Maximilian that is actually in this room. There's these beautiful mirrors that have gold frames around them, and at each corner there's an image of Carlotta in the mirror. And somehow or another, these ended up in an antique shop down in San Antonio, and a representative of the Driscoll found these in the 1930s, purchased them, and then added them to their newly decorated Maximilian Room. So they say that these mirrors themselves are haunted by the spirit of Carlotta, who supposedly went insane after her husband was executed, and she failed to be able to get the adequate help he needed. So if you stare at the image of her in the mirror long enough, you're supposed to be able to see her image in the mirror itself. Although that could just be, a trick of the eyes. If you stare at anything long enough, it can kind of become, ingrained in the iris there, and you might see it somewhere else. But still a fun story, and still a very kind of random artifact to be found at the hotel.
Okay.
So we are walking into the Maximilian Room, and as you can see, it is surrounded by these mirrors that are the gift to Carlotta. And there she is up at the very top. Every single one of these has her image adorned at the top there.
And these were in Galveston?
These were in San Antonio in an antique shop.
All of them in the
All
same
of them.
place, all together as a set.
Eight. All, that was quite a find.
It's amazing that they stay together.
Absolutely.
So they wanted a penny for them. Those mirrors don't look flawed. Usually over age, the mirrors start to lose their lamination.
Really nicely kept.
Yeah, very well preserved. And that's interesting. Actually, because this is my first time getting to see them in person, I always had it in my head that she was a portrait, on the corners, or on the edges of it. I didn't realize that she was actually a bust up at the top there.
Had that prominence.
Yeah, it's very elegant.